There are people who become doctors for the money. Adriana Okonkwo was not one of them. She grew up in Enugu, in a house where the walls were thin and the nights were loud with the sound of her mother's prayers. Her father worked at the post office. Her mother sold fabric at the market on weekdays and sat in the front row at church on Sundays. They were not poor enough to suffer and not rich enough to rest easy. They were the kind of family that counted every naira at the end of the month and still found a way to smile about it. From the time Adriana was 7 years old, she wanted to be a doctor. Not because anyone told her to, not because it sounded impressive, but because when she was 7, her younger brother Chidi got very sick with typhoid fever. She remembered sitting at the edge of his bed, watching him shake under a thin blanket, his lips dry, his small body burning like it had fire inside it. She remembered the doctor who came, a quiet man with steady hands, who walked in, looked at Chidi for a few minutes, spoke softly to her mother, and wrote something on a piece of paper. 3 days later, Chidi was chasing her around the compound again. To Adriana, that was magic, the most real kind. She decided right there that she wanted to be the person who could do that. The person who walked into a room where someone was fading away and had the power to pull them back. She was brilliant, and she worked like she knew it. While other girls her age were thinking about boys and hairstyles, Adriana had her head in textbooks. She did not just read to pass exams. She read because she was genuinely hungry for it. How the heart pumped, how the liver filtered, how the brain sent signals down the spine like a telephone operator connecting calls. The human body fascinated her in a way that never got old. She finished secondary school at the top of her class, got into medical school on her first application. Her father cried at the dinner table the night the letter arrived. Her mother cooked jollof rice and fried plantain and invited half the neighborhood. Adriana sat through all of it, smiling politely, already thinking about the years of hard work ahead. And hard work it was. Nobody warned her how hard. There were nights she slept 3 hours and still had to show up sharp at 6 in the morning. There were exams that felt like they were designed to break people. There were professors who looked at her like they were waiting for her to quit. She did not quit. She graduated. She did her internship. She did her residency. And then she became Dr. Adriana Okonkwo, and the name felt both enormous and perfectly right at the same time. Her first job was at a government hospital in Lagos. It was not glamorous. The hallways smelled like antiseptic and something older underneath that. The beds were always full. The equipment was often outdated. The nurses were overworked because they had been underpaid for years. But Adriana loved it. She loved the rush of an emergency. She loved the moment a diagnosis clicked into place in her mind, all the pieces of a puzzle suddenly making one clear picture. She loved talking to her patients, really talking to them, asking about their families, their sleep, the things that stressed them out, because she understood that a person's body and their life were never two separate things. She stayed late most evenings, not because anyone asked, because there was always one more chart, one more patient, one more person who needed a few extra minutes of someone's full attention. Her colleagues liked her. Some admired her. A few were quietly intimidated by her, though none of them would say so out loud. She had a way of walking into a room that made people feel like things were about to be handled. For a while, everything felt exactly as it was supposed to. She was doing what she had always come to do. She was saving people. She was being the doctor that little 7-year-old girl had dreamed about while sitting at her sick brother's bedside in Enugu. But then she started to notice something. It started small, the way things that are about to change your life often do. A patient here, a case there. Small moments she filed away without meaning to, like her mind was quietly collecting evidence before she even knew there was a case to build. A young woman, 22 years old, came in with a lump in her breast. Adriana examined her, referred her for a scan, and told her to come back in 2 weeks. The woman came back. The lump had been confirmed. It needed attention quickly. Adriana tried to move things forward and hit a wall almost immediately. The woman had no insurance that covered the procedure. The public allocation for that kind of treatment had run out for the quarter. She was placed on a waiting list. 3 months later, Adriana saw the woman's name again. Not on a patient file, on a death register. She stood in the corridor for a long time after that, holding the paper, reading the name over and over like maybe she had read it wrong. She had not read it wrong. That was the first crack. Then came another, and another after that, until the cracks were everywhere and she could no longer look at the hospital the same way she used to. She began paying attention differently, kept her own quiet notes, and what she found, what she could no longer pretend she hadn't found, would become the thing that changed everything about her. The girl who had chosen medicine was about to discover that medicine, in this place, had not chosen everyone equally. The thing about working in a hospital is that after a while, you stop seeing it the way visitors do. Visitors walk in and see white coats and clean corridors and people who look like they know what they are doing. They see the equipment, the charts, the organized busyness of it all, and they feel reassured. They think, this is a place where people come to get better. Adriana had thought the same thing once. But when you work inside those walls long enough, you start seeing the other version, the one that doesn't make it into the brochures. You start noticing who gets rushed in and who gets told to sit down and wait, who gets the good bed and who gets the one in the corner near the broken window, who gets seen by the senior doctor and who gets handed to the most exhausted intern on the floor. And slowly, quietly, like a person finally admitting something they have known for a long time, Adriana saw it. It was money. It was always money. Not skill. Not urgency. Not how sick someone was or how much time they had left. Money. That was the thing that decided everything in those wards. That was the invisible hand that moved people up waiting lists and opened doors that had no business being closed to anyone fighting for their life. She watched a 40-year-old man with kidney failure sit in the same chair for 6 hours because his insurance provider kept bouncing the approval back and forth between departments. She watched his wife pace the floor outside, clutching her phone, calling numbers that put her on hold. The man's condition got worse while paperwork went in circles. By the time anything moved, they had lost a window they would not get back. She watched a teenage boy, 17, still had pimples on his face, come in with what should have been a straightforward case. Caught early enough, it was manageable. But his family had nothing. No insurance, no connections, no money to pay out of pocket for the medication that would have made the difference. He was put on a government program wait list that moved so slowly it might as well have been standing still. Adriana watched him come back 3 times over 4 months, each time looking smaller, each time the light in his eyes a little dimmer. He did not make it to the 5th visit. And then, this was the part that truly made something harden inside her. She would turn around and watch a wealthy patient with the same kind of diagnosis walk in, get seen within the hour, access medication that technically wasn't even widely available yet, and be discharged in days. Smiling, shaking hands, telling the doctor what a wonderful facility it was. Same disease, completely different ending. The only thing separating those 2 outcomes was a bank account. Adriana started losing sleep, not because of the long hours, she had always managed those, but because every time she closed her eyes, she saw faces. The young woman on the death register, the man with kidney failure, the teenage boy who came back 3 times and then never again. They visited her at night and they did not speak. They just looked at her, and she would wake up staring at the ceiling, heart loud in her chest, asking herself what exactly she was doing about any of it. She decided she was going to make noise. It felt like the right thing, the responsible thing. She was a doctor with a voice and a clean record and enough credibility that people might actually listen. So she started talking. First, it was carefully worded posts online. She did not name her hospital. She spoke in broad terms about systemic inequality in healthcare access, about how treatment outcomes in Nigeria were being quietly shaped by wealth rather than medical need. People responded, shared her posts. Other doctors sent her private messages saying they saw the same things and were afraid to say so publicly. That gave her courage. She went further. She started doing radio interviews, sat across from presenters, and spoke plainly about what she was witnessing, not as an attack on individuals, but as an indictment of a broken system. She talked about the waiting lists and the insurance walls and the drug access gaps. She talked about young people dying of curable things because the cure was technically available, but practically out of reach for anyone without money. For a few weeks, it felt like something was shifting. People were talking about it. A couple of journalists picked up the thread. There was a moment, she remembered it clearly, sitting in her car after one particular interview, the city loud around her, where she genuinely believed she might be at the beginning of something real. Then the other thing started. First, it was just unfriendly comments online. People calling her a troublemaker, telling her to focus on her job and leave politics alone. She ignored those. She had expected some pushback. Then a pharmaceutical company she had never personally dealt with issued a vague public statement about reckless medical commentary undermining public trust in healthcare institutions. Her name was not mentioned directly. It did not need to be. Then a senior administrator at her hospital called her into his office and sat behind his desk with the careful expression of a man who had rehearsed what he was about to say. He did not threaten her. He was too smart for that. He just reminded her, slowly and with great politeness, that doctors who attracted controversy sometimes found their working environments becoming difficult. He said the word difficult the way people say it when they mean something much worse. Then came the messages. Not unfriendly comments, not professional warnings. Messages to her personal phone number that she had never given to anyone who should have had it. Messages that described where she lived, what her car looked like, what time she usually left the hospital in the evenings. One message that said simply, "You should learn when to shut up." Adriana was not a woman who scared easily, but she was also not a fool. She stopped. She took down some of the posts, declined the next interview request, went quiet in the way that the system had wanted her to go quiet all along, and she hated herself a little bit for it, even as she did it. But here's the thing about a mind like Adriana's. It does not go quiet. It just goes inward. She stopped shouting and started thinking. And what she thought was this, all of it, every single death she had witnessed, every case that had gone wrong for no reason except money, every single one of it came down to one thing. These people did not have enough money to access what would save their lives. That was it. That was the whole problem in one sentence. So if that was the problem, then the solution was just as simple. Get them the money. She didn't know yet what that would mean. She didn't know yet where that thought was going to take her. She just knew she was done watching people die for a reason that had nothing to do with medicine. The doctor had gone quiet, but something else in her was just getting started. She tried to do it the right way first. That matters. Remember that. Adriana threw herself into fundraising the way she had thrown herself into everything else in her life. Completely, seriously, with the kind of focus that made people around her feel slightly exhausted just watching. She researched donor programs. She studied how medical charities were structured in other countries. She registered a foundation, got the paperwork right, built a small website, designed flyers that she printed with her own money. The first fundraiser was held in a rented hall in Victoria Island. She had spent 3 weeks preparing for it, called in every favor she had, reached out to former classmates who had done well for themselves, colleagues who she thought shared her values, business people she had met at one event or another over the years. She prepared a presentation. Real numbers, real cases, names changed, but the story's true. She stood at the front of that hall, ready to make people feel what she felt every day inside those wards. 40 people showed up, in a hall that sat 200. She gave the presentation anyway. She spoke well. She always spoke well. And the people who came listened politely and nodded in the right places and ate the small chops that cost her more than she wanted to admit. At the end, when she passed around the donor forms, most people took one, folded it carefully, and put it in their pocket or their bag. She never heard from most of them again. The money that came in covered less than a third of one patient's treatment costs. She paid the rest herself. She tried again. A smaller event, different approach, more personal, more intimate. She sat with people one-on-one and told them exactly what she needed and why. A few people gave. Not enough. Never enough. The need was too big, and the giving was too small, and the gap between the two was a place where people kept dying. She tried online campaigns. Posted stories, again, names changed, with photographs of hospital corridors and waiting rooms, trying to make people who had never been inside those walls understand what was happening in them. She got comments, likes, shares. A few small donations from strangers who stumbled across the page and felt something for 5 minutes. It was not nothing, but it was close to nothing. She applied for grants, filled out forms that asked for things in triplicate and required references and organizational histories and projected impact assessments. She waited months for responses. Half never came. The ones that did come back were rejections worded so gently they almost felt like encouragement, which she found more frustrating than a flat no would have been. 8 months. 8 months of this. And in those 8 months, she had helped 4 patients in a meaningful way. 4. She knew of at least 30 cases in that same period that had ended badly for reasons that proper funding would have fixed. She kept going back to that number. For verses 30, it sat in her chest like a stone. It was after yet another nearly empty fundraising event. This one on a Tuesday evening in a hotel conference room on the mainland, bad lighting, a ceiling fan that made too much noise, maybe 20 people scattered across chairs that were arranged for 50, that she met Emanuel. She had just finished speaking. The polite applause had died. People were standing around in small groups, talking to each other about things that had nothing to do with why they were supposed to be there. Adriana was at the far end of the room, stacking papers she didn't need to stack, doing something with her hands so she didn't have to stand there looking like what she felt, which was defeated. She heard him before she properly saw him. A calm voice. Not loud, but the kind of voice that carries without trying. "You're wasting your time," he said. She turned around. He was maybe 55, well-dressed in a way that didn't need to announce itself. No flashy watch, no loud fabric. Just a man whose clothes fit him perfectly and who stood like he had never once been unsure of where he was supposed to be. His face was unreadable in the way that people's faces get when they have spent years making sure nobody can read them. Adriana looked at him for a moment. "I'm sorry. What are you doing here?" he said, and he gestured around the room with a small, unhurried movement of his hand. "It's not going to work. It was never going to work. Any other night, she might have had more patience. But it had been a long 8 months. If you're here to criticize, I've already had a full day." "I'm not criticizing," he said. He sounded like he meant it. "I'm telling you the truth. There's a difference." He picked up one of her flyers from the table beside him, looked at it briefly, set it back down. "I've been watching you. Not just tonight. For a while. You're not the first doctor to try this, and they all end up in the same place you're standing right now. Tired, underfunded, talking to rooms that are mostly empty. Then why are you here?" she asked. "Because," he said, "I think you actually want to solve the problem. Not perform solving it. Actually solve it." He tilted his head slightly. "I could be wrong, but I don't think I am." She didn't say anything. Something about the directness of him made her want to hear what came next, even though part of her already didn't like where it was going. He introduced himself, Emanuel. He was vague about what exactly he did, in the way that people with a certain kind of money always are. He said he had connections. Said there were people, wealthy people, private people, people who would never sit in a room like this one, who had resources and specific interests, and who would pay significant amounts of money for access to certain things. "What things?" she said flatly. He didn't flinch. He explained it simply, without drama, the way someone explains something they have thought through completely and made their peace with long before the conversation began. There were people who needed organs. Kidneys, mostly. People on transplant lists who had the money to move faster than those lists allowed if the right arrangement could be made. He knew how to connect supply and demand, he said, and some of her patients, the ones with nothing left to lose, might find that selling a kidney put more money in their hands than they had ever seen in their lives. Enough to pay their own medical bills and still have something left over. And then there was the other side of it, he said. His voice did not change when he said it, which somehow made it worse. There were clients, private, discreet, wealthy, with a very specific and disturbing fantasy. They wanted to have sex with sick women. The gaunt face, the frail body, the hollow look of someone fighting to survive. That was exactly what excited them. Some wanted to watch it on camera. Some wanted to be the one in the room. They paid obscene amounts of money for it, he said, the kind of number that didn't make sense until you saw it. And some of her patients could make in one night what they would never see in 2 years of ordinary life. The specifics varied, but they paid extraordinarily well. And some of her patients, the ones who were sick but mobile, who needed money urgently and had few options, they could make in one arrangement what they would never make in a year of ordinary work. He would take his share, he said. She would take hers, and there would be more than enough left to cover whatever treatment her patients needed, with money remaining. "You should leave," Adriana said. Her voice was quiet, but it was not soft. It was the voice she used when she had already decided something. Emanuel Nwosu nodded slowly, like a man who had expected this response and was not bothered by it. He reached into the breast pocket of his jacket, took out a plain card with just a number on it, and placed it on the table between them. "I'm not asking you to decide tonight," he said. "I'm asking you to think about what you actually want. You want those people to live. The ones in your wards. The ones on your lists. Right now they are dying because they don't have money. I'm offering you a way to get the money." He paused. Everything else is just details. He left. He walked out of that badly lit conference room like he had somewhere better to be, which he probably did. Adriana stood there for a moment. Then she picked up the card. She told herself she was picking it up to throw it away properly. She put it in her pocket. On the drive home that night, she told herself she would not think about it. She thought about nothing else. His words kept rearranging themselves in her mind, finding new angles, sliding into the spaces where her frustration lived. For verses 30, 8 months, 1 kidney, and a person could live a full life. The money would be real. The treatment would be real. The survival would be real. She got home, sat on the edge of her bed, and stared at the floor for a very long time. She did not throw the card away. His name was Tobias, and he was 31 years old, and he was terrified. Adriana first saw him on a Thursday morning, sitting in the corridor outside the consultation rooms with his hands clasped between his knees and his eyes fixed on the floor. He was thin in the way that told you the thinness was recent, like a man whose body had started quietly eating itself without asking permission. His cheekbones sat too close to the surface of his face. His clothes were clean, but loose in all the wrong places. She almost walked past him. She had 3 other patients to see before lunch and a stack of files on her desk that wasn't getting any smaller. But something made her stop. Maybe it was the stillness of him, the way he was sitting there like a man who had already accepted something. She stopped. "Have you been seen yet?" He looked up. His eyes were alert, which surprised her. She had expected the dullness that came with prolonged illness. But his eyes were sharp and dark and full of something that looked like barely controlled panic. "They said wait," he told her. She looked at his file tag, pulled his chart, read it standing right there in the corridor. It was bad, not unfixable, but close and getting closer. A condition that had been manageable 6 months ago and was now racing ahead of him because 6 months ago he hadn't had the money to treat it. And by the time he scraped enough together to come in, it had moved to a place that needed urgent and expensive intervention. The kind that public allocation didn't cover and his non-existent insurance certainly wasn't going to touch. She took him into a consultation room and sat across from him and asked him to tell her everything. He did. He spoke quietly and without self-pity, which she respected. He was from Anambra originally, had been in Lagos 5 years working in logistics, driving and coordinating deliveries for a company that paid just enough to keep him coming back. No wife, no children yet, though he had hoped. His mother was back home, older now, with her own health issues. He sent her money every month, or tried to. When he got sick, he kept working as long as he could, kept telling himself it would pass. The way people tell themselves things when the alternative is too frightening to look at directly. By the time he could no longer pretend, he had very little saved in a body that had run out of patience with being ignored. "Do you have anyone?" Adriana asked. "Family here, friends, anyone who could help with costs?" He shook his head. "I've asked. People have their own problems." He said it simply, without bitterness. Just a fact. She looked at his file again, looked at the numbers, looked at him. "I'm going to be honest with you," she said. "Please," he said. She told him the truth about where his condition was and where it was going. She told him what treatment would cost and what the hospital could currently offer him through public funding, which was not enough and not fast enough. She watched his face as she spoke. He didn't crumble. He just listened, and when she was done, he was quiet for a moment, and then he said, "I'm scared to die." Just like that. No drama, no tears, just those 4 words sitting in the room between them, as honest as anything she had ever heard. "I know," she said. "I'm not ready," he said. "I haven't done anything yet. I keep thinking I haven't done anything yet." His voice stayed level, but his hands, still clasped between his knees, tightened until his knuckles changed color. "I just want a chance. That's all. Just a chance." Adriana sat with that for a moment. She thought about Emanuel Nwosu's card, which was still in the small dish on her kitchen counter where she put her keys and loose change. She had looked at it every morning for 2 weeks. Every morning, she had left it there. She heard herself ask the question before she fully decided to ask it. "If someone could find a way to cover your treatment," she said carefully, "but it required something from you in return, something difficult, would you want to know about it?" Tobias looked at her, really looked at her, like he was trying to understand exactly what she was saying without making her say it plainly. "What would it require?" he asked. "I don't know the full details yet," she said, which was half true. "But it would not be easy or comfortable. It might feel like a very hard trade." He was quiet. Outside the room, she could hear the usual sounds of the ward: footsteps, a trolley wheel, someone on a phone down the corridor. Normal sounds, ordinary Tuesday sounds. "What will happen if I just wait?" he asked. She held his gaze. "I think you already know the answer to that." He nodded slowly, looked down at his hands. When he looked back up, his face had settled into something that was almost calm. "What wouldn't I do to live?" he said. It wasn't a question. It was an answer. "Tell me." That night, Adriana called Emanuel Nwosu. She told herself it was just a conversation, just gathering information. She told herself she hadn't decided anything. She had just met a man that morning who was 31 years old and scared to die, and she was calling to ask questions, that was all. Emanuel picked up on the second ring like he had been expecting her call, which she suspected he had. "Just once," she said before he could say anything. "I'm not agreeing to anything beyond one situation, and I want to understand every detail before anything happens." "Of course," he said, calm, unsurprised, like she was calling to confirm a restaurant reservation. He explained it clearly. He had a client, a wealthy man in poor health himself, on a transplant list, the kind of man whose money could not buy him more time, but could buy him a faster path to the time he had left. Tobias was a potential match, medically speaking, for a kidney. If it worked, Tobias would go to a private facility Emanuel knew. The procedure would be performed by people who knew what they were doing, and he would come out of it with 1 kidney instead of 2, which Emanuel reminded her millions of people live perfectly full lives with. The client would pay. Emanuel would take his cut. Adriana would take hers. And Tobias would have more than enough left to cover his treatment and keep himself for months afterward. "Is it safe?" she asked. "The facility. Safer than dying," Emanuel said. She hated that he was right. She spoke to Tobias the next day. She sat with him for a long time, and she did not dress it up or make it sound like anything other than what it was. She told him exactly what was being proposed, watched his face move through several expressions she couldn't fully name. When she was finished, he was quiet for almost a full minute. "And my treatment," he said. "Afterwards, that's guaranteed." "Yes," she said. He nodded, slowly, steadily, like a man making peace with a hard road because the other road was worse. "Okay," he said. "Okay, let's do it." Everything moved quickly after that, quicker than she expected. Within a week, Tobias had been assessed, matched, prepped. The private facility was clean. She had insisted on seeing it herself, told Emanuel she wouldn't move forward otherwise. It was small and quiet and had none of the chaos of the government hospital, which should have reassured her and did, and also unsettled her in a way she couldn't explain. The procedure went well. Tobias came through it without complications. He spent a few days recovering, and Adriana visited him each time, checking his vitals, checking his face, asking him how he was feeling in a way that meant more than the clinical question. He was okay. He was actually okay. The money cleared. His treatment started. And 3 weeks later, she was walking down a corridor at the hospital when she heard someone call her name and turned to find Tobias standing there, looking different. Fuller in the face, straighter in the spine, still thin, but not frighteningly so, still recovering, but visibly, genuinely alive. He walked up to her, and without saying a word, he put his arms around her and held on for a moment. When he stepped back, his eyes were wet. "Thank you," he said. "I mean it. Thank you." Adriana smiled. She felt something rise in her chest, something warm and enormous and intoxicating. She had done it. She had actually done it. She had taken an impossible situation and found a way through it. Tobias was alive and standing in front of her and grateful, and she had made that happen. She also noticed, as she walked back to her office, that her share of the money had already landed in her account. It was more than she made in 4 months at the hospital. She sat at her desk and stared at her computer screen without seeing it. She had told Emanuel just once. She had meant it when she said it. But Tobias was alive, and somewhere in the ward right now, there were others. She knew their names. She knew their files. She knew exactly what they needed and exactly what they didn't have. Just once, she had said. She already knew that was not going to hold. The second time was easier than the first. That should have worried her. It didn't. There was a man named Calvin, 44 years old, a mechanic from Mushin with rough hands and a loud laugh that the nurses liked. He had liver disease and a wife and 3 children whose photographs he kept folded in his shirt pocket. He pulled them out and showed Adriana on his second visit, the way proud fathers do, smoothing the creases carefully before tucking them back. She approached him the same way she had approached Tobias. Sat with him, told him the truth about his situation, asked him a question. He listened, asked 2 practical questions about the procedure and the recovery time, and then said yes before she had even finished answering the second one. No long silence, no dramatic moment, just a man with 3 children in his pocket who had decided that whatever it cost to stay alive for them, he would pay it. It went smoothly. The money came. His treatment started. He sent her a text message 3 months later that was mostly prayer emojis and exclamation marks, and she found herself laughing at her phone alone in her car. 2 for 2. She told herself she was running a careful operation, that she was choosing cases thoughtfully, only approaching patients who were truly out of options, only working with Emanuel's network when the need was genuine and urgent. She had rules. She kept them at first, but the need was never-ending. That was the thing. She would close 1 case and turn around, and there were 5 more behind it. The wards were not getting less full. The waiting lists were not getting shorter. The insurance walls were not coming down. Every week, there was another face, another file, another person sitting in a corridor with nowhere to go and not enough time to wait for a solution that was never coming. And she had a solution. It was ugly, and she knew it, and she had made her peace with that knowing, which is a dangerous thing to make peace with. But it worked. People were living who would have died. She could point to them, track them, see them recovering and returning to their lives. That was real. That mattered. The money also mattered. She did not lie to herself about that, which she felt was at least honest. Her account had more in it than she had ever seen in her life. She paid off debts she had carried since medical school. She bought a car that started every time without drama. She sent her mother an Enugu enough to fix the roof that had been leaking for 3 years and still had money left over. It felt good. She let it feel good. And then came Amara. Amara Nwofer was 26 years old, and she was one of the sickest people Adriana had seen in a long time. She had come in looking like someone who had been slowly disappearing, skin ashen, frame so slight it looked like a strong wind would have an opinion about it, eyes that were enormous in her thin face and filled with an exhausted kind of alertness. She was sick in multiple ways that were tangled together and feeding each other, and the cost of properly treating all of it was staggering. Adriana assessed her, spoke to her. Amara was quiet in the way that people get when they have been dealing with something alone for too long and have run out of ways to explain it to people who keep looking at them with pity instead of help. She answered questions directly and asked a few sharp ones of her own. She was clearly intelligent, clearly someone who, in a different set of circumstances, would have been sitting on the other side of a desk somewhere. Adriana went to Emanuel about Amara. He came back to her with a problem. Amara was too physically compromised for an organ procedure. The risk was too high and no legitimate surgeon, even in a black clinic, would clear her for it. But Emanuel said there were other options. He explained it carefully. There were clients, Private, wealthy, the kind whose names appeared on board lists and in society pages, who had very specific tastes. Some of them wanted to watch a live video, a private stream, a woman who looked the way Amara looked, fragile, real, not the manufactured kind of beauty that was everywhere, with someone. The payment for something like that was extraordinary. More than an organ, in some cases. Significantly more. Adriana was quiet on the phone for a long moment. "She's sick," she said. "She can still move," Emanuel said. "It will be short. The client is not interested in anything extended. An hour at most. She will be comfortable and safe." I'm describing a transaction," he said, "that keeps her alive. Same as the others." She told him she would think about it. She thought about it for 2 days. She thought about Amara's file. She thought about what happened to patients like Amara when there was no money and no time and no options. She thought about Tobias standing in the corridor with wet eyes. She thought about Calvin's prayer emojis. She went to Amara. She did not dress it up. She sat across from this young woman, and she explained what was being proposed plainly, without flinching, because she felt that Amara deserved the plain truth more than she deserved a comfortable lie. She watched Amara's face as she spoke. Something moved behind those large eyes, something complicated that Adriana could not fully read. When she finished, Amara was quiet for a while. "And the money covers everything?" she asked finally. All of it, Adriana said. "And more." Amara looked out the window. There was not much to see, just the side wall of another building and a square of gray sky. She looked at it for a long time. "I'm going to die if I don't get treated," she said. Not a question. "Yes," Adriana said. Amara turned back to her. Her face had gone very still. "Fine," she said. The word was flat and small and final, like a door closing. It was arranged. A private location. A camera. A man the client had selected. Adriana did not watch. She waited in a car outside and told herself she was there to make sure Amara was safe. The whole thing lasted less than an hour. When Amara came out, she walked to the car and got in and did not speak for the entire journey back, and Adriana did not push her to. The payment came through that same night. When Adriana saw the number, she had to read it twice. Amara's treatment started the following week. The doctors were encouraged by her early response. Things were looking better than the initial prognosis had suggested. Adriana waited for Amara to reach out to her. A week passed. 2 weeks. She had expected something, a message, a visit, even just a word passed through one of the nurses. She had saved this girl's life. She had found a way when there was no way. After 3 weeks, she went to see Amara herself. She found her sitting up in bed, stronger already, some color returning to her face. She looked different, not just physically. Something in the way she held herself had changed. She looked at Adriana when she walked in and did not smile. "I wanted to check on you," Adriana said. "See how you're doing." "I'm doing better," Amara said. Her voice was neutral. "Good," Adriana said. "That's good." She waited. "I thought I would have heard from you." Amara looked at her steadily. "Heard from me? For what?" Adriana felt something shift in the room. "I just thought after everything." "After everything," Amara repeated. Something in her tone made Adriana stop talking. "I was going to die," Amara said quietly. "I know that. And I'm not dead. I know that too." She paused. "But what you brought me to do, what you arranged, I was sick. I was scared. I had no power in that room, and you knew that when you sent me there." Her voice did not rise. It stayed level and precise, which made it worse somehow than shouting would have been. "You didn't save me. You found a use for me when I had nothing left. There's a difference." Adriana opened her mouth. "I think you should go," Amara said. Adriana left. She walked down the corridor and out of the building and stood in the car park for a moment in the afternoon heat, turning the conversation over in her mind. She was angry. She was genuinely angry. She had risked everything for that girl, had found a solution where there was none, and this was what she got. Ingratitude. Accusations. She pushed the anger down and got in her car and drove. But Amara's words followed her. They sat in the back of her mind like a passenger she hadn't invited, quiet but present, riding with her everywhere she went. She did not slow down. If anything, she moved faster, because by now, this was no longer just about the patients. She could admit that, at least to herself. She had seen what real money looked like, and she wanted more of it. The foundations she was building in her name were growing. She had people working for her now, recruiters who identified cases, screened patients, handled the initial conversations, so she didn't have to be present for everyone. She focused increasingly on the arrangements like Amara's, because they paid more than anything else and required less medical infrastructure. She told herself she was still choosing carefully, still only approaching people who were truly desperate, still ensuring treatment followed every arrangement. Mostly that was still true. Mostly, she bought property, an apartment in Ikoyi, a plot of land in Lekki. She started a legitimate medical foundation in her own name that funded free clinics in 2 local government areas, which was real and which helped real people, and which she also knew looked extraordinarily good from the outside. Her name appeared in newspaper profiles. She was photographed at charity galas. People called her inspiring. She went to those events and smiled and shook hands and gave speeches about equitable healthcare access. She meant parts of what she said. She had convinced herself she meant all of it. She was rich now, genuinely, seriously rich in a way that she had never imagined being when she was a girl in Enugu, watching her father count naira at the kitchen table. And somewhere in a hospital bed, Amara Nwofer was getting better and carrying something inside her that had nothing to do with her illness, something that wasn't getting better at all. Adriana did not know this. Or perhaps she did know it, somewhere underneath everything, and had simply gotten very good at not looking there. Either way, she was about to find out. It started on a Tuesday morning, the way ordinary disasters often do. Adriana was in her car, stuck in Lagos traffic, coffee in one hand, phone face down on the passenger seat, listening to a radio station she had on mostly for background noise. She was thinking about a property meeting she had later that afternoon and whether she needed to move a flight she had booked for the following week. Her life had the full, forward-moving rhythm of someone who had stopped looking back. Then she heard a voice on the radio that made her go completely still. She recognized it immediately. She would have recognized it anywhere. That precise, level tone, that careful way of choosing words. She turned the volume up slowly, the way you do when you're hoping you misheard something and turning it up will confirm the mistake. It was not a mistake. Amara was on the radio, and she was telling everything. Not shouting, not crying, not performing outrage for an audience. Just talking in that same flat, precise voice she had used in the hospital room the day she told Adriana to leave, giving names, dates, details, specific amounts of money, describing arrangements in language that was clinical and devastating at the same time. She talked about herself. She talked about others she had heard about through whispers and connections in that quiet world Adriana had built. She talked about what it felt like to be sick and terrified and have someone offer you survival with a price tag attached that you couldn't refuse. She said at one point, simply, she knew what we were. She knew we had no choice. And she used that. The radio presenter was almost inaudible. Amara needed no prompting. The traffic moved. Adriana did not move with it. The car behind her honked. She did not hear it. She sat there with the volume turned all the way up and listened to her entire life being taken apart on a Tuesday morning radio show, piece by careful piece. By the time she got to the office, her phone was already going. Messages from numbers she knew and numbers she didn't. Missed calls stacking up. She sat at her desk and looked at her phone screen lighting up over and over and thought, with strange calm, so this is how it happens. She denied everything publicly, and she did it well. She had always been a composed woman, and she called on every bit of that composure now. She gave a short, measured statement through a lawyer, the kind of statement that acknowledged nothing, questioned the motives of the accuser, and positioned her as a dedicated medical professional being targeted by someone with a personal grievance. She used the word fabrication once. She used the word unfortunate twice. It bought her some time, not much, because the thing about the truth, when it finally comes out after being held in for long enough, is that it doesn't need much help. People were already talking. Other voices began to surface. Not on radio, not publicly, but in conversations and messages that started reaching journalists and investigators. Former patients, former recruiters, People who had been on the edges of what she built and had always felt uneasy about being there. Her legitimate foundation's major corporate sponsors issued statements within days. Regretful, carefully worded, announcing they were pausing their partnership pending review, which meant they were gone. The free clinics she funded lost 2 of their main support lines almost overnight. The investigation started quietly. These things always start quietly. And then, just as quietly, something else started happening. Something that Adriana did not expect and would not fully understand until later. People started making phone calls on her behalf. Not friends, not family, pharmaceutical executives, hospital board members, a senior figure in a major insurance corporation who had never spoken to Adriana directly in his life, but who understood, with the cold clarity of self-preservation, that a deep investigation into what Adriana had been doing was going to raise questions. And those questions were not going to stop at her, because what she had been doing existed in the shadow of a much larger and much older wrong. The waiting list she had exploited existed because the system had designed them to move slowly for certain people. The insurance gaps she had filled existed because certain companies had calculated that denying coverage was more profitable than providing it. The drug access she had worked around existed because pricing structures had been deliberately built to exclude people without money. If investigators followed the thread she had pulled, they would not end up just at her door. A deal was arranged, not in any room she was present in. She heard about it through a lawyer, and then through another lawyer, and then through a man she had never met who called her from a number that showed up as private and spoke for 4 minutes and then never called again. The terms were simple. She would cooperate with a contained process. She would not speak publicly. She would sign documents that gave up the operation quietly and completely. She would leave the country. The investigation would conclude without a public trial. Her name would carry some damage, but no conviction. And her money, the property, the accounts, all of it, she kept. She accepted. Of course she accepted. She was not a fool, and she did not want to go to prison. She had a life, and she intended to live it somewhere else, somewhere that was not Lagos, where her name was now a conversation people had over lunch. She arranged to leave on a Friday. A car would take her to the airport. A flight booked under arrangements she did not ask too many questions about. A new beginning in a place where she could be, if not exactly who she had been before all of this, at least free. She got dressed that Friday morning with the particular care of a person who is aware they are dressing for something significant. She had one bag. She had been advised to travel light. The rest would follow through other arrangements. She stood in her Ikoyi apartment for a moment before leaving and looked around at it. The clean lines of it, the view, the life she had built inside these walls. She felt something, but she could not have named it cleanly. It was not quite regret. It was not quite pride. It was something in between those two things that had no proper word. She took the elevator down, walked through the lobby. The doorman held the door for her the way he always did. She stepped outside into the Friday morning air. The car was waiting at the curb. The driver was standing beside it. She walked toward it. She heard the shot before she understood what it was. It was loud in a way that didn't seem real at first. Too loud, too sharp, too close. She felt something that her brain had not yet caught up to explaining. She went down. The ground came up to meet her in a way she had not prepared for, and she was on the pavement, and she could hear shouting now, the driver shouting, someone running, sounds that were coming from very far away even though they were right next to her. She turned her head. Her cheek was against the cool pavement. A woman was standing a few meters away. Still, not running, just standing there with her arms at her sides, waiting. Calm in the way that people are calm when they have made a decision they have no intention of going back on. Adriana looked at her face and knew her immediately. Amara. Not the gray, diminished Amara of the hospital bed. Not the quiet, precise Amara of the radio broadcast. This Amara was upright and present and looking directly at her with eyes that held something Adriana could not look away from. Not hatred exactly. Something older and heavier than hatred. The look of a person who has been waiting for the only form of justice they believed was still available to them. The police came. Amara did not move, did not run, did not speak until they reached her, and even then she said very little, and what she said once. She said, "She saved my body and broke everything else inside me," and they were going to let her walk away. That was all. Adriana died on the way to the hospital. The same kind of hospital she had spent her career inside. The same corridors, the same sounds, the same smell underneath the antiseptic. Whether she was triaged quickly or slowly, whether money would have made a difference in those final minutes, nobody said. Nobody wrote about it. Amara was tried and convicted. She was sentenced to life in prison. She did not appeal. The investigation that had been quietly arranged to go nowhere did, in fact, go nowhere. The insurance executives kept their positions. The hospital boards released statements of condolence regarding Dr. Adriana Okonkwo and then returned to business. The pharmaceutical pricing structures remained exactly as they had been. The waiting lists continued moving at the speed they had always moved for the people they had always moved slowly for. A few of the free clinics Adriana had funded shut down within a year due to lack of funding. Mortality rates in the wards climbed quietly. There were no headlines about that part. The story faded, the way stories do when enough powerful people would prefer they fade. And the wards filled up again, as they always had, with people who needed help they couldn't afford, sitting in corridors, waiting, hoping that somewhere inside the system there was someone who would find a way. There was no one. There was no one left. One question before you go. Adriana watched people die because they were poor. She found a way to save them. Wrong, dark, and ugly. But they lived. She got rich doing it. She got a bullet doing it. Was she a villain or a broken hero? Did the system that turned those patients away share any blame for what she became? And Amara, did she get justice or just a life sentence? But the real question is simpler than all of that. If you were dying and had nothing, would you have said no to Adriana?